Is a lack of visibility stunting the growth of your business?
Or is a lack of confidence preventing you from seizing opportunities to showcase your expertise and build credibility? Today, we're going to sit down and talk about the confidence tax, calculating the true cost of public speaking anxiety.
Welcome to the Influencer's Journey Show. My name is Suzan Hart.
And I'm Turiya Hodge.
And the big question is this: how does the average entrepreneur like us, who started with limited time, zero marketing budget, or little to no presence, get their authentic message into the marketplace and become a person of influence?
And what skills must you learn? And most importantly, who are you required to become to magnetically attract your divine client and build a loyal following? Welcome, welcome, Suzanne, to another episode of the Influencers Journey Show. And this is going to be a hot topic. I think all our topics are hot, but this one here, especially, I know it's going to be an eye opener, a game changer for a lot of our super achievers.
I love the title because, calculating the tax, the confidence tax is so true because, when I look back, there was such a cost that was like financially and in many other ways
Hmm.
because of my anxiety of speaking. Therefore, I had avoided it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know for me, I remember, well, I've shared it plenty of times on the show that actually owning the title of speaker has been something that I resisted for a very long time, too long, too long that I even care to admit in public. But I remember one particular conversation I was having with a friend of mine, and just think about how ironic this is. I was actually doing my show, Social Media Saturdays, and
Yeah.
you do Social Media Saturdays, or I did it every Saturday, oh my gosh, for probably 6 years. And even though that I had a platform, I showed up dedicated every week, I still was not willing and ready to own the title of speaker. And I had a friend that said to me, "Well, Turiya, you are a speaker." And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not a speaker. I just get on here and I just share wonderful information and my superstars, they love me. And I just am so blessed to be able to help people move in the way of social media and do their things." I called myself every other name in the book except for speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's is one of those things that I had to grow into it. And I say this all the time. It wasn't until I started working, with you, I really understood the difference between getting up there, sharing information, and knowing what it takes to become a speaker, but not just a person who gets on the stage and talk, but being able to do it confidently. So that's what I am excited to unpack with
Mm-hmm.
our conversation today.
You know, if for me, we talk about the confidence tax,
Mhm,
a lack of confidence can also just create your own failure. And
mhm,
I remember, I had an incident as a child where my teacher embarrassed me in front of the room, and
mhm,
I decided I would never ever speak again. And I remember being invited to speak at an event when I first started my career. And I knew the information, Shreya. I knew exactly what to do. I could tell you the stuff backwards and forwards. My lack of confidence, my fear, my nervousness, my anxiety created my failure.
yeah.
And partly because I was so nervous and in my head and concentrating on all the things that could go wrong, that I created them. And I do mindset. So, what you think about,
Right.
you bring about, what you focus on expands. Well, I was the master of it
Yeah.
and total flop and blamed it on my skills, to which I
Mm.
didn't really have any at that point in time. And just decided I can't do this. I'm not good in front of people. I'm afraid. And it was really just a lack of confidence and the anxiety that comes when you don't have confidence.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna tell you, I've had stories where, you know, lack of confidence showed up for me. I remember the first time I actually stood in the stage and someone asked me to share my story. I opened up my mouth, tears fell out, and that's how that went. So
And so it's going to be really fun to unpack one, where does confidence come from,
mhm.
and why every one of us should be a speaker. And I really want to define, when we're talking speaker, we're not talking grand stage, big stage, thousands and thousands of people in the audience. We're talking about the art of communication, the ability to stand up in front of a person, a group, whether it be small, and confidently convey a message. And every entrepreneur, author, coach, consultant, whatever you choose to call yourself, if you are a leader, this is something that you definitely want to embrace. So as you jump on, please let us know who you are, where on this planet you're joining us from, and what you do while you're living. Who are you called to serve, and why do you love serving them? Also, add in the comments section what brought you out today, any questions you may have about this topic, comments you have about this topic. In other words, light up the comment section. The other thing we're going to ask is, if you're listening to the replay, definitely hashtag replay and do the same thing. Where are you joining us from? What do you do while you're living? What do you do for a living? Who are you called to serve, and what brought you out? Comment, network amongst each other, answer each other's questions, just get into the conversation, because this is our opportunity to connect. This is our opportunity to network with each other.
Yeah, awesome. And then also, if you are out there and you are joining us and you have not had the opportunity as yet to grab the freestyle speaker playbook, this is your opportunity to do so. Now, this freestyle speaker playbook is for all of our entrepreneurs, coaches, course creators, and you are out there and you know you have a desire to get more exposure in your business. Yes, this is your opportunity to get the information to show you how to get recognized, hired, and paid what you're worth. And so we have made it super easy. Just check in the description below the video and click on the link and grab your speaker playbook.
Oh, well, okay. Are you ready to get this
Oh yeah,
conversation
I am
rolling?
ready.
All right. Well, for those of you that are just joining us, welcome back to the Influencer's Journey Show. Our topic today is confidence tax, calculating the true cost of public speaking anxiety. Oh, how many of you have public speaking anxiety? And how many of you are recovering people who had public speaking anxiety? I could put my hands straight up. I could put both hands up, because I was the person who hid out in the back of the room,
Yep.
afraid of the presenter, because I didn't want that person to ask me a question. So I totally get this.
So yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, I hear it all the time. And like I said, for me on the journey, public speaking, you know, speaking really and truly was one of the things that I was deathly afraid of, avoided it. Like I said, I remember one time being at an event and 3-day event. Can you imagine the irony in it? A speaker training event at that, but thought I could actually go through the program without having the opportunity to speak.
I just want the notes, right? I just
Right.
want to know how it's done. I'm not actually going to do it.
You know, and the thing about it is, it's even though you have the notes and you get the big binder, you have all the details, like no one really shares with you how to deal with that anxiety, you know, and I know, Suzanne, this is a thing that people would say that you know they feel the butterflies,
Hmm.
right? But for me, it was really, you know, overpowering, like to the point of nearly passing out. Okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I definitely have to say that I could identify with having the speaker, you know, anxiety. And so, like I said, it wasn't until we started to, you know, do the work together and really start to unpack. And I mean, we went into layers, you know, and what we're talking about is how just showing up as a great communicator is definitely the thing that every entrepreneur needs to have. But I want to start our conversation today talking about, the one hidden tool that every great speaker has in their toolbox. And now I'm going to say this. It's sometimes the thing that I went through in my mind when I look at, other speakers on stage, and I, look at them and say, "Oh wow, they're so great. They're natural born speaker. They were made to do this." And I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, "Oh wow, I could never
Do that.
be that. I could never do that." And it wasn't until, we started to work together, he said, "There's a hack for this. There's a trick to it." And I was just like, "Oh." So start us off with talking about, the great tool that every speaker has in their toolbox. They have it in their back pocket, but they just don't let us know.
Absolutely. And, I remember exactly the same thing. And it was an older man, the gentleman who encouraged me to speak, and then again, David, who eventually taught me a lot of what I know about speaking and presenting. And I would watch them, and they just seemed so natural on stage. They just seemed so at ease, and David particularly just seemed so playful, and he was just having fun out there. And I would look at it and go, no, can't do that, can't do that. And then when I started learning speaking, they pulled out a template.
Mhm.
And this template told you everything to do. Walk to the stage, plant your feet, do this, do that, insert story here. And I was like, oh. And what I realized was that they had practiced this template so much
Mhm.
that it had become a part of them. So they
Mhm.
weren't thinking about what they needed to do, they were just doing it. So I liken it to, when you first start driving a car, you have to think about everything. You have to concentrate on where you're looking, where are the indicators, where is this, where is that.
Yeah.
A few months in, you're on autopilot if you practice and drive often enough. Well, this template is very much the same thing. They were using this template and looking so natural. What I'll tell you, when I started using this, at first I thought, okay, well, cool. However, as I started using it, I began to relax.
Mhm.
And I realized a lot of my anxiety had to do with I had no clue what I was doing when I took the stage.
Yeah.
I did not know what to do when. And so in my head, I had hope. I hope this is okay. I hope people like this. I hope this is in the right order. I hope, because I didn't know. When I got the template, I was like, okay, I know the order. I know what I'm supposed to do when I take the stage. I went from a hoping to a knowing. And that knowing in and of itself began to boost my confidence. And the more I use the template, the more confident I become. So I call the template your safety net. Like if you're the tightrope walker,
Right.
and it's the safety net that you've got these kind of like guardrails on. And even if you tip, you know exactly where you're going to fall, and you know where to when you get back up what you're supposed to do. And that for me was everything.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember like the first time you showed me the template, right? I'm like, duh, that makes sense.
Doesn't it though?
Because and I'm going to share with you why. So it's something so simple, but it wasn't obvious. So part of my
Um,
background, I've been in sales and customer service for years. And one of the things they always tell you is like you have a script. Now, I'm not saying that this is a script, but when you have a script has a certain format to
yeah,
it. And all you have to do is like follow the format, follow the script. And I know one of the biggest things that people say all the time with scripts is like, I don't want to sound like I'm scripted, but it's no, it's not that you have to sound like you're reading everything, but you have a format and you have a flow to follow. And so when I saw that, I was just like, oh, absolutely. I
You
could
know
do that.
what,
And
and you know what's,
it took a
you
lot
know,
of the pressure off of me.
for sure. And you know what's interesting about it is that now that I watch other speakers, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, opening, yeah, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. And I start seeing the template. And you know, when we have students, they're like, I went to watch someone and I couldn't help but notice step one, step two, step three.
Yeah,
And so, however, a good template
yes.
and a great speaker has it look invisible.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the beauty of it. And that's why I would look at these two gentlemen and just be in awe. I remember the first time I saw Lisa Nichols speak, I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was a new speaker, so I was able to pick out all the things she was doing.
Mhm,
Before
mhm.
that, it just looked like flow and ease and grace. And how does she know? It was just amazing. That's the art of a great speaker. And that's why we say that speaking is a craft.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference in, I feel comfortable in front of the room just talking, and
Mhm.
notice the language I'm using, versus I am a speaker.
Yeah.
There's a big difference because there's an art to it.
Yeah. And that's what I loved about it is because it allows for conversations to flow, but you know in your mind where you're taking your audience. It, like I
Ah,
said, there's a format, but for the people in the audience who's experiencing you, it seems like you're just having a wonderful, engaging conversation.
right.
You're able to do things like be playful. Because I'm going to be honest with you. You know, I used to say it all the time. I'm not the wing it type of person. Please do not call me 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 months before you need me to speak. Talking about we have a speaking opportunity. I need at least 6 months to get ready. That used
Not anymore.
to be more. That used to be my mindset.
Absolutely. So, and so now you have the template. So everybody who's listening, you know that there's a template. So start looking for it. However, there is a habit. It is the number one habit in my mind, that to cultivating a speaker, to that separates good speakers from great speakers. Speakers who look stiff on stage and speakers who are having fun and the stage is like their playground. Now, before I let you know what it is, because Turiya already knows what it is this. It is the most difficult thing to get new speakers to do. If you're in our freestyle program, we're talking to you as well as everyone else that's listening. And so, Turiya, what is the number one habit of great speakers?
Man, it's the number one habit. Whenever you want to be able to be great at something, you got to practice it. Practice
Practice.
it. And Suzanne, you are absolutely, right. And I think we're going to tie it back to the anxiety. And I think that that's where a lot of the anxiety comes from. So we've seen it where people, have had the script, or have a template and they have the process. But what they're doing is that they're actually waiting until they have an opportunity or someone invites them
Yeah,
to speak. And then once again, they go into it frantically, like, oh my gosh, how does this work again? Or do I even remember how to do this? And they're in their mind, about it. And the reason why is because they haven't really built in the time or even into the mindset. Just like everything else that you want to be great at, you have to practice at it. You have to be able to get comfortable with it. You have to be able to own it. You have to be able to embody it, all of those things. And you won't get to that level until you practice.
absolutely. So if you're a super achiever and you're listening, I want you to write this down. PDR. practice, drill, rehearse. Now, PDR is grounded in a technique called deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is doing things in a specific order until you own it and until you know it works. Deliberate practice. It is the skill of all successful people. Whether you're a basketball player, a tennis player, you play chess, you are a scientist, no matter what you do, those people who have elevated success break things down and do it in a specific order. That is deliberate practice. Now, just to give you personal testimony, when I first started speaking and I really decided I was going to commit myself to this craft, I spoke every day for at least 30 minutes and sometimes an hour. So what I did was I set up a conference call first thing in the morning, and I would jump on. And at first I had my template and I had my notes, and I would PDR, practice, drill, and rehearse. As I got more comfortable, I would put 3 words on my sheet and I'd speak and train. And then I got to challenge myself to come to the call, the presentation with no notes.
Mhm.
I did this for 4 years, 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. While doing that, I was also touring and speaking with my coach, and I was practicing and drilling and rehearsing. Now, this was the thing. I was also taught to watch and listen to myself. Not fun when you first do it. Don't like my voice, don't like the way, why am I doing that? Why is all this happening? All these things. You get real personal and you get into this thing called accepting who you are and how you show up.
Mhm.
However, that feedback loop gave me the information needed to go from good to great. Now, PDRing is how you start owning the template that we're talking about. And that is why you will not notice it when speakers take the stage because it's internalized. They've practiced, drilled, and rehearsed in a sequence that they can use it almost blindly. It's like a part of them, so they don't have to think about it. It falls out. It's like driving the car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I want to go back, to something that you said is very crucial, I think. And one of the things that you said is that once you got the structure and you have the format, you gave yourself the opportunity, or you created the opportunity for you, to put it into practice, whether it was 30 minutes a day, an hour a day. And I know that there are some super achievers out there, that people who are going to come across, this podcast, this video, and they're going to say to themselves, well, oh my gosh, I don't have the time,
Mhm.
to do that. How do I build in the time to do it? And I'm just going to share one of the biggest things for me that was a game changer is that I realized I had to create a system of accountability. And so
Absolutely.
yeah, my system of accountability, towards speaking actually started before I had the opportunity to meet you. And what that looked like, I, host a live every Saturday morning. And so
Yeah.
I started to build in the habit. Now, what became really cool is once I got the format and I understood the format and I committed to the format, I changed the structure, of doing it, and continue to show up in that light and give myself the opportunity to practice. Now, I'm going to share with our super achievers, like, this is totally a game changer, because these are some of the things that I hear people say all the time. How do you speak for an hour? How are you guys able to do a episode for an hour, whether we're together or whether, we're doing it by ourselves? And then also on the flip side, some people freak out when they say, well, you only have 10 minutes to take the stage and share. And so what I've learned, whether it's 10 minutes or it's an hour, the format is still the same, and you give yourself the opportunity to practice. And so you have to create those spaces, for you to practice. So don't think that, because you have it is going to magically get in your head by osmosis. It doesn't work that way. You have to create the opportunity.
Uh-huh. Well, I think also, Turiya, the truth of the matter is when I'm serious about anything, when you're serious about anything, you make the time. I remember when I first started this business and I was sitting at home, actually, I was laying on the floor having an anxiety attack, truth be told, and I called my mother for comfort. Yes, I still do that. I called mommy for comfort. And my mother, in her wisdom, said this line to me. She said, Suzanne, and she paused because that's how she is, a little dramatic. And she said, when have you ever
Right.
truly committed to something and failed? And I stopped and I paused and I said, oh, well, never. And she said, just commit. She was like, commit and get to work. And then what I'm driving home is I committed and I PDR'd, I put in order, I put in systems, but I created the space to ensure I would increase my likelihood of success. And do we know the time frame it's going to take? Not absolutely. However, the first step is to commit and create the space for you to become great, right? We're not talking perfect, we're talking good to great.
Love it. Love it. Okay. And so now I have to ask you, because we've been talking a lot about anxiety and the things that, you can do to help overcome your speaking anxiety. But what is the secret, really, if you had to boil it down very succinctly and tightly, what is the thing that you would share with our super achievers that they could do to reduce the anxiety?
Well, I think we've touched on the first two. One is you want to have a template, a structure. Now we have one that we use, and if you're not working with what us, you probably should be, but if you're not,
Shameless plug.
you definitely want to create a structure, an order, or get one from someone. So that's the first thing. The second thing for reducing anxiety is building your confidence. And how do you build your confidence? You PDR, you practice, and you make this part of your weekly routine,
Right.
and you do it in a deliberate way. And the thing is that the more you practice and the more you know what you want to do, and have a sense of what you want to say. I don't mean memorize per se, but you have a sense, the more confident you will show up. And the more confident you show up, the less anxiety
Yeah.
you will have. So those are the first two. But this is number three. And number three for me was the game changer. And it was be yourself,
Mm,
right? And I've watched so many students of different speakers try to be
like a
a
speaker.
like speaker,
Like a
a
mentor.
clone of their mentor.
Yes.
And and what I'm going to say to you is they're showing you a process, they're teaching you skills. Within that, you are required to find this place where you're going to be yourself. Now, when I talk about being yourself, I want to just go a little deeper because I'm talking about bringing your funny self, your serious self, sometimes your intense self, sometimes your goofy self to the stage. All of you. And I'm also talking about giving yourself space to be imperfect because nothing creates anxiety and pressure than coming to the stage with the need to get everything right. Say everything you rehearsed or memorized, not missing a this, not missing a that. First of all, that's not who we are as humans. And second of all, perfection creates distance.
Mm-hmm.
Imperfection creates connection. And I'm talking about perfection and imperfection versus mastery. You master the template. You master your craft because if that's why you're taking the stage. You practice what you're going to say. And then when you step on stage, you surrender and trust
Yeah.
that you've done the work to prepare and then you be yourself.
Yeah.
That is the secret to reducing anxiety in the world, according to Suzanne.
No, I absolutely love it, right? And it's one of the things that I definitely enjoy working with you because, as humans, like you said, we have a tendency to put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We put the pressure on ourselves, before we take the stage, and then there's the pressure after we get off the stage. We have the tendency to beat ourselves up. And
Yeah.
one of the things I absolutely love working with you, and we do it to this day, is always being able to just take a look at the one area, the one thing that you're going to improve upon, and just take it like step by step. So a lot of times, oh my gosh, that didn't go well. And we're trying to fix everything all at one time. And it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. Just take one thing, okay? And said, you know what, next round, this is what I'm going to focus on and improving, and I'm going to work on it. And then you got it. You practice it, you got it. It's become a part of you. Now you're ready to take and add the next thing. And I think for me, being in this space, that has been like the best thing ever, because I could definitely see the times where I have sat in overwhelm, beat myself up to the point where, I didn't want to get on the stage. I didn't want to speak again and go into those places of hiding.
It's interesting because what you bring to mind is a situation um, that I had with my coach,
Mhm.
and I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to get things right, to show up perfect, to look good, and to deliver really, really good content. Now that's great, and however, I sat in perfection. And so imagine I walk into an event, I sit down, I'm in the audience, and I'm enjoying watching my coach work his magic and just make the audience swoon, cry, laugh, jump up and down. Like, I mean, the man is like maestro. And then suddenly he sits down, picks up his cup of tea, he's English, and starts to sip it and says, I need a break from training.
Mm.
And as soon as he says that, I can feel my anxiety going. And he goes, there must be another trainer in the room. And then he locks eyes with me and he goes, Suzanne. And I'm like, what? And he goes, the stage is yours. And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm part of the audience today. He goes, not anymore. The stage is yours. Now, one of the things when he was training me, he always said, expect the unexpected. This is the unexpected. I'm in the audience. And so I got up and he said, you have 3 minutes to think of your topic and start training. I was like, huh, huh, huh. Now, remind you, I have been, remember, practicing every
Yeah.
morning and giving myself the opportunity to do the call without scripting. And so nervous, anxious, I'm feeling on the spot. I start to train. And in the middle of it, I mess up. I draw a blank. I lose my trend of thought. And this was the freeing moment, Turiya. I looked at the audience, and in your mind, it's going really slow. And I'm thinking, how can I get out of it? I could just fake I know what I'm saying, does that, or I could just be truthful. And I said, I just lost my trend of thought. Would you mind if I rewind? And the audience said, yeah. And I spinned around and went like I was rewinding and started again. And they applauded. And in that moment, I learned that my honest, authentic self
Right.
was a lot more relatable and fun than my perfect self. Lesson learned. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Finish training and return to my seat. I share that because that was the moment I became free,
Yeah.
right? That was the moment I realized that the audience was not going to condemn me for my imperfections. They didn't actually expect me to have everything right. And Turiya, they don't know what I'm supposed to be training on anyway. don't know what I prepared. So when I mess up, I'm in my head about, oh, I missed this. They don't know.
Yeah.
Willing to be myself, willing to be responsive, willing to be honest and truthful.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here and I'm smiling because one of the things you reminded me of, one of the things that used to hold me back too is my accent. And I
Uh-huh.
always had a fear that my accent will at some unopportune time pop out, and for some reason, no one in the audience will be able to understand what I'm saying. And so, those are the funny things, the funny stories that we have running in the back of our head
Mhm.
that keeps us back. And like I said, being able to, tap in, to the practice and having the format, it allowed me to, like you said, relax and be authentic. And so even sometimes when, I'm saying certain things, I could let my accent slip out. I could use my Caribbean terms and terminology and feel comfortable with it and not have to worry about, did it come off wrong? Or if I go into this, am I going to lose my train of thought? Just like you said,
Oh,
how do you bring it all back together? So being able to just show up authentic me, just makes it feel a whole lot more comfortable because, like I said, I know for one, comparing yourself, to other speakers and trying to be more like them, trying to be more polished. And that's not what it is. We all have people that
yeah.
as we show up as who we are, they're going to be drawn to us. And so we have no other choice but to be who we are.
Yeah, and allowing someone to hear that Caribbean accent that's so beautiful, because I have one too, it allows some people to see a different dimension of you. And I think that's the beauty of being yourself is is for people to see the layers of you. And I know for myself, the biggest compliment, the nicest compliment I have gotten, and it's still the best compliment today, is when someone comes up to me and says, "You're the same on stage or you are off
Off
stage."
stage.
And I'm like, "Yes, I am because I'm being myself." And that for me is where I want to live. Can I bring authentic Suzanne to the stage? You know, I have the question I want to ask you is how has confidence made you more willing to be visible? Because you are the proclaimed behind the
Leader,
scenes
right?
girl.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. It- Once I got a hold of this, Suzanne, it clicked in me. And I realized that, yeah, what was really holding me back was the lack of confidence. And so, just like everything else, the way how you gain confidence, like you said, is you practice. And so, the more I practiced, the more I gave myself opportunities to speak and to show up on various different platforms, whether it's in person platforms, online platform, our platform, other people's platform.
Absolutely.
You get into the rhythm of it, and then it becomes like, oh, it's not a scary thing anymore. I'm not locked into my mind like how I used to be locked
Yeah.
in, to my mind, because like I said, I gave myself, you know, the opportunity to just show up. And so I remember, I think it was last year, I had the opportunity to be a part of a networking event and online networking event. And event met every week. And I listened to other people, in, my circles. And one of the things, or some of the things people would say is, oh, I don't have, the time in my schedule, to do this. Okay. And as speakers, some people gauge opportunities
Mhm,
and they make all of these excuses sometimes not to show up. And
mhm,
so this one particular opportunity, one of the things that the host said is that you would have an opportunity for 10 minutes every time we get on here to talk about your products and services. And
mm.
I'm gonna tell you, I watched some people, were excellent at it. You could tell. that they were trained speakers, and others not so much, that would get on there, they would stumble and they would fumble and they would feel bad, but at the same token, didn't take the next step to come back next week to do things different. And then there were others who, every time they were asked to take their 10 minutes, they would pass on their 10 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was a very interesting thing for me to watch. And I know what I said I was going to do. I was going to embrace this opportunity to once again build my confidence. And
mhm.
I noticed is that because I stayed in practice, and remember, it's not stayed with the ed, is stay, present tense,
Yeah.
stay in practice. Now I am seeking out opportunities, and so I proactively go after opportunities. And then when people call me for opportunities because they see me out there, I don't have to say, when is your event? Is it 6 months from now? Because I need I need 6 months to get ready. No, seriously speaking, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I had a dear friend and colleague call me because one of the speakers that she had on her roster backed out on her event. And she called me at the last minute and she says, "Hey, can you do this?" Well, the good thing is, because I'm in practice, we do this all the time. I have topics that I know I could speak on
Yeah.
it format, so it's just a matter of just getting on. And what was really surprising, about it, that I reflected and journaled about it, the speaker who was supposed to come on after me didn't show. And she was just like, "Well, can you do another spot?" Gladly. And so I took advantage of the opportunity. And so when we talk about how confidence has grown, that's the level that I have grown to. Been the person who would do trainings and never turn on my camera. That used to be me. I actually had a training role in a company, and I trained people, but people would never see me. And I was always
Wow.
like, yeah, I was always like, "Oh, look, there ain't nothing to talk about here today. What we gonna do is learn this information, open up your computer, and you want to click here, you want to click here, and you want to click here." And to me, that was the extent of my training. Ain't nothing else to see here, guys. But until, I really understood this and realized how important it is
Mhm.
in my business, I really took it on. And once I took it on, things started to shift.
Very good. Very cool.
And so I do have a question for you. And so one of the things that we always explore, in our influencers journey show, the main topic is, what does this all have to do with influence? And so, how has really building your confidence affect our ability to influence others?
That is such a great question. And I think what I'll start with is confidence is sexy.
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't it though?
Yes,
When you,
indeed.
when you see someone who's confident, it's attractive, it's sexy, um it's magnetic, if you will. Confidence actually edifies you before you ever open your mouth. And I'm talking about the way you walk, the way you carry yourself. And when you're nervous and anxious, you're going to walk into a room very differently than when you feel certain and confident. I think confidence also underlays how you present and how you train. One of the things we talk about when we train people is, I want you to stand confidently, plant your feet, shoulders back, take up real estate, say, "I am here." And so there is a way, particularly with women, that women stand when they're confident. And there's a way that women stand when they're uncertain, particularly on the stage. You'll see people hiding in the back of the stage, far, far from the audience, rather than coming up and like getting in their face and feeling like you can touch them. All those things convey a message. And so the more confidence you walk with, the more certain people feel you are, the more ownership you take of who you be and how you show up and what you have in the world is inspiring. And remember that inspiration is the first part of influence. Can I show up in a way that has people say, ooh, I like that? One, I'm attracted to that. I want to know more about that. And then I want to be more like that. So I'm going to follow and model what that person says. We all think that people follow us because of our content. I will tell you that there's people out there delivering the same content as you, some better, some not so good. However, so content is readily available. And now with GPT and Google on blast, content is easily accessible. So we aren't needed as much. What people come to other people for is energy. They come to us for boosting and modeling and hope. And so the more you, yeah, absolutely. So the more energy you have, the more you can inspire hope, the more you can give people the sense of I can do that too. The more you can say I am your guide, the more influence you have. So it all starts with posture, right? I remember when I used to teach sales, and I'd say sales begins and ends with posture. And the posture is I can confidently support you and provide you with a great service. I believe that, and I know that like I know my name. Do you have posture? Those are the things that we're talking about. And posture and energy is much different than bravado.
Yeah.
It's much different than just ego. It is much different than all those things because it is internal and it is a knowing. And that's why it creates influence. That's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And it's so true. And so, like I said, for our super achievers who are out there that are listening, and this is really the next step that you are ready to take. I'm just going to say we have an amazing resource in the bottom of the description that will allow you to take the first step and get started. So please do not miss your opportunity to grab it.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, we also have a master class that teaches this. So definitely make sure you check that out because the master class will give you a lot of the information that we're talking about. So the information will get the gift will lead you to that, and you definitely want to take advantage of that. So I want to share with everyone the thought of the week. And it is by none other than Brian Tracy. We all know Mr. Brian Tracy. And he says, your ability to communicate with others will account for fully 85% of your success in your business and in your life. 85%.
Yeah.
Do we need to say more?
No, we don't need to say any more because I'm telling you, we all know how things fall apart. It falls apart when we have ineffective communication.
Things go downhill quick.
Downhill very fast.
Oh my goodness. So you have been listening to the Influencer's Journey Show. My name is Suzan Hart. This is Turiya Hodge. We have been talking about confidence tax. I'm going to say that again. Confidence tax, calculating the true cost of public speaking and anxiety. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back here next week, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, with another exciting and riveting topic.
Take care, everyone.
Until we meet again, please know you are brilliant. Please know you are oh so very special, and we all do this work because the world is waiting.